place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, today we have a very special group joining us today. This is Elevate Joshua. They're in favor of the bond, which is going to be voted upon next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow. And also, early voting has already started, and I highly encourage y'all to take advantage of that. You know, I've already voted for. Now, I'm not eligible to vote for the bond, but I did vote for the propositions for the state amendments, and you know, I've been pushing Proposition 9 because I'm a retired teacher, of course.
Sure.
And I need the raise, but we'll see if it passes. But anyway, I have Leo right here, and also, you know, we're going to be doing a Zoom and back and forth. And also, we got Charles Hudgens, who you're over in Cleveland right now, right?
I am right now, yes.
Okay, good. And so these two people have been the forerunners of Elevate Joshua, and we're going to talk about the need for it and what some money going to be used for, and the issues that of growth that Joshua is facing, just like BISD has been facing. I mean, we're looking at the same thing. This whole area is blown up. I'm sure Godly had the same thing. And also, what I'm hearing now, you know, Grandview's having the same thing. So this area is really, really growing, and so this bond, it certainly in my view, is necessary, and we're going to talk about why it's necessary.
Sure.
Okay, first of all, I got to ask Lee, how'd you get roped into doing this?
Roped in is a good way.
Yeah.
I was involved in the bond last year in May of 22 when it didn't pass. And I was not part of the future planning committee at that point, but I got involved a little bit after the fact and helped with the efforts with our PAC that was established for that bond. And so I just kind of dipped my toe in, and I'd been seeing some of the back and forth on Joshua residents talking and some of the other places that.
He's chuckling like that must be a very exciting place.
It gets interesting for sure, but anyway, just reading that, started asking some questions and wanted to get familiar with everything that was, you know, the bond offered at that point, and I just kind of stayed involved.
And how about you, Mr. Hudgens? How did you get asked to do this?
Well, I've actually got a unique perspective. I'm a former board member there in Joshua also, and I was on the board last time we rolled the bond out and it failed. So, and being on board member, I've seen the schools, I've seen what's going on there. I know how packed they are and how much room we do not have right now, and it's just getting worse. So when they asked for volunteers for the committee, I raised my hand. I want to see everything. I want to see everything expand. Our kids need the room. Our teachers need the room. And I figured I could offer a different perspective than anybody else could.
Okay, I want to run through my first set of sponsors, and we're going to talk about the details and the growth issues that Joshua's facing. But we should acknowledge the people that make all this possible for us. Thank you, CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Get yourself a good workout there. Check out their page, CrossFitBurleson.com, and you can find out classes and times, and it's supervised instruction so that you'll be able to get the right kind of workout. Thank you to Shandy Stogsdill, our favorite realtor in the area. If you're moving into this area, and she does Joshua homes, I know that much, she'll tell you that every time I have her on the show, it's been a little while, but because she's kind of busy, but when she'll tell you the first two things that the people that she talks to when they want to move in this area, they ask about is the schools and the police. And then they'll start talking about like business atmosphere or whatever else. But the first thing, if they have kids, that's the first thing that comes out of their mouth is what kind of schools we talk about. So that's among many reasons why this bond needs to pass. Thank you also to our friend Otto over at our place. I bet even Joshua people go over there.
Sure.
Yeah. And they have one in Cleveland, if that's closer to you. And they also have one in Mansfield. And Otto is a very big supporter of the schools and the city and whatnot, and it's a great place to go and for breakfast. And he routinely wins awards for the best breakfast and lunch in town. So check out our place when you have a time. Also, Wild Cigar, same thing. They got the ball games going on. Wild Cigar. Y'all cigar smokers by any chance?
I'm not.
Okay. Well, if you have cigar smokers in your life somewhere,
Sure.
You can go get gift cards, or they'll set you up with a nice gift pack because it's coming. Christmas is coming. But it's a good place to go, have a cigar, have a drink, watch the ball game. They had the Cowboys yesterday, the Rangers tonight. So check it all out. Also, Thank you to our friend Tiffany over at Local Life Magazine. That show should be coming out this week and goes to 30,000 homes and a whole lot of businesses. I see extra copies in a lot of different retail outlets here, so you're getting more than just the 30,000 for your advertising. And Burleson Buzz, our friend Cody O'Brien, he's keeping track of all the stuff that's going on with the city, and he told me he has an interview with a candidate for office coming up in the next edition of Burleson Buzz. So I'm looking forward to reading about that, potential competitor to Mr. Williams. So we'll see what happens. And let's just jump onto the bond issue here. Roughly how much is the money y'all are looking for?
The bond we presented was $107,140,000. Isn't that correct, Charles?
Yes.
It includes an elementary school, in addition to the middle school that is over off of 731 Nichols Middle School, and then an expansion and remodel of our CTE wing in the high school,
And the technology that goes with that, is that in the bond as well?
I believe so, yeah.
I think so. Almost always that the furnishings and technology are part of the bond, but because I'm just thinking back to Burleson's situation when we were building Centennial and the technology issues. I mean, that's not cheap. If you want to have the proper technology, it's going to cost.
Sure. And, I had a discussion with a current teacher in the CTE department the other day, and she's in one of the nursing classes. I can't remember exactly what that program is called, but she said basically that those kiddos, what they're working on now, the equipment's so dated that they're kind of behind when they go out into the real world. So that'll be great if the kids can get some more, real-time experience and what industry standards are.
Right. And Mr. Hudgens, you said you were part of the school board at one time, so you've had a firsthand look at the growth issues, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would imagine. What are the growth issues? I mean, I live here in Burleson. I live on the other side of the highway, in fact. So I live right outside. I live in BISD, but I know the growth issues I'm seeing just in our part of the county. I mean, I have a big housing development coming up, and I know it's facing a situation where one of our elementaries may be well overloaded, to say the least. This is probably what's happened to y'all, particularly in the growth areas of Joshua, Burleson, that makes it all that.
Yes, we have 5 elementaries, and 3 of them at the moment are either at capacity or approaching it very soon, and will be by the end of this school year right now.
Right, capacity. The thing about it also, are you also facing state restrictions on class sizes still? Is that still a thing?
Yes.
Yeah, up until like the 3rd grade, aren't they limited to 22?
I believe so. I haven't heard of it change.
I haven't heard of it changed either, and I usually kind of keep more or less up to date with this.
Sure.
And that's a big issue. And I tell you, when I have BISD people here or school board candidates here like we did last May, the first thing I talk about is class size, because all these things we're talking about get diluted in value and in effectiveness when the class is too crowded. And you get into a situation where it's not really a one-on-one education, it's crowd control.
Sure.
Now, for somebody like myself who had mostly older students and in many cases advanced placement students, I could manage it, but I couldn't even begin to think about trying to run an elementary class with 30 kids.
31st graders.
Yeah,
Oh,
oh my Lord,
imagine.
that's the 3rd level of hell right there. So, so where is the growth happening in Joshua, rather?
So there are several subdivisions, master plan communities that are going in. We have one south of town that actually I was not even aware until I became part of this future planning committee. I thought it was Cleburne ISD, but all the way as far south of Joshua as you can get before you go over the bridge on 60. Well, I guess it'd be this side of 67. It's on the
just south of McCoy's.
Yeah,
Right.
south of McCoy's, right there, east of 174. That's Joshua, and then you come north. There's a new apartment complex that's, I can't remember how many they said, 300 or 400.
Yeah, 300 or 400. Yes.
In that apartment complex, and then if you drive west of town and north, they're everywhere. I mean,
well, I teach a class in Cleburne for Hill every spring, and so I drive right through Joshua, and it seems like, and I only do it in the spring, so there may be some time passing before I make the trip to Cleveland, and every time I go through Joshua to there, I see something new. I see new developments. I see new housing. I saw the apartment complex. And if I want to take a different kind of drive just for change, I'll go through 917.
Sure.
I see it happening there.
Well, and it's hard. There's blurred lines too, because like what I thought would be Godly ISD, is Joshua. I'm one of those. My house sits literally right on the Joshua Godly ISD line. So it's like the two are kind of coming together just like they are in Burleson. And with Chisholm Summit, that new master plan development, I mean, I believe between that development and the one out on 915 that will have some Godly kiddos in it. I think it's like 5,000 homes total between those.
Chisholm Summit's going to be a game changer. That one, and they haven't even started on that. That one's going to be like several thousand.
They haven't started the homes on it, but definitely the utilities and stuff like that, and roads.
We've had one of their representatives from Rocky Bransom's company here, and it's been a little while. He's a former student of mine, so I need to get him back on here and have an update. But he was on about a year and change ago, and he brought the whole plan, and as far as the effect on BISD was somewhat limited, but boy, I saw, and we both talked about this, Joshua is going to really blow up.
Sure.
And, that's one reason among many, I think this bond is so necessary. And, as far as the bond again itself, is it differentiated as to X will be spent on this, X will be spent on that, or is it pretty much a broad open bond?
I mean, Charles, do you want to answer that?
Yeah.
It is broken down to some point. Like it has so much as this is going to go for the elementary. This is going to go for Nichols. This is going to go for the CTE. But other than that, it's not really broken down by line item yet, because these are all just like market calculations. Estimations,
budgetary numbers.
Yeah.
Well, see, we passed a bond in the city, and we found out, and it's a current controversy. I mean, you have to have something to yell about in town, of course.
Sure.
About the police station, which I'll be talking about with two of the board, city council people with next week. And just the time frame between when that bond was passed and the rise in cost, we're talking about maybe 15 months has passed, and the rise in costs are eye-staggering. It's like, wait, I mean, I think the bond that was passed in May of 2022 was adequate for 2022, but they're having to find more money just to be able to do what the bond promised to do. So every year that passes for y'all, you mentioned last year it did not pass. All that did was amp up the cost.
Sure.
And if this doesn't pass, it isn't like Joshua's going to quit growing.
Correct.
And it isn't like those kids aren't going to be coming. And so, but every time that they pass, I think what it does is it adds even a bigger financial burden upon the district. And
you're not necessarily getting more for spending more. It's just inflated cost. And, that was something that was really important with our future planning committee was really, the feedback from the community, I think, as a whole last time was that there were too many needs in the bond. So it was a priority, I felt like, for everybody in there to really dissect everything that we looked at. And there were a lot. They came to us with, these are all the things that we could want or need. And this group of, it was probably regularly around 30 people that came to the meetings, I would say. And we prioritized and weeded things out and really tried to present a bond that highlighted only the needs. And those, I had somebody ask me the other day, I've had several people, why can't we see online all the time that it should have been broken down into each project was on a different proposition. And I'm like, I get that, but my perspective sitting in those meetings and why we didn't go that direction was because those needs that we put in that bond don't change. So we will say you broke it down into propositions and there are 5 of them and 2 of the 5 pass, the other 3 don't. It's still going to be something that has to be addressed in the future, and it's going to cost more money on down the road. So, I think the cumulative goal of the group was to let's get this passed before inflation hits us again like it has on this. I mean, it's crazy. So
yes, it is. Hit is the right word.
Yeah, trying to be mindful of. I'm good, thank you. Though. Right. Of people's finances, it's not an easy ask, but it's definitely a necessary one for sure.
Well, no one likes the situation of having to have their taxes changed, but that's a part of living in a community that's growing, and we at Burleson have passed, in my lifetime anyway, about 3 or 4 bonds, build Centennial, build elementary schools, whatever else, and there was opposition to it, but by and large, the city of Burleson, the district residents of Burleson, understood that when they came to a community like this, they may be asked these kind of things. And because it's better to have this kind of community than when it's dying and your tax revenues drying up. Mr. Hudgens, when y'all put the bond together, how did you come about with these numbers? Oh, there just a little something popped up there. Zoom is a wonderful thing. Yeah, and we love Zoom. Anyway, how did y'all come up with the numbers for the specific parts of the bond?
Like I said, we had just rough market estimates from the school. Got the numbers. I believe they were from
the
architectural firm that they had.
Okay, so you're not just pulling these numbers.
The market numbers for it.
Right. So you're not pulling these numbers out of your hat and say, "Well, I think it's going to cost this." You're getting professional advice about the cost here.
Sure.
And also the cost of technology and furniture and whatever else that I'm sure has all been estimated by the potential builders. We were talking before the show, Leah, about where the biggest need for the schools are. You talking about you want to add an elementary school. Where would that go?
So currently the district owns property in Panchasarp Farms, which is right there behind QT in that area, the little THR standalone.
Right.
And as far as I know, that is the plan for that elementary school to go there on that. I think it's 15 acres that the school has there. And, I walked that neighborhood recently and it's crazy. That's a really diverse community and a really, really nice place. And there were people in there that, hey, we thought an elementary school was going to be here. And we're like, we thought it was too. And those kids all funnel into North Joshua Elementary. They're all Burleson addresses, but they go to North Joshua, and multiple parents, talked about how packed their kids' classrooms were at North Joshua. So there's definitely, the school has to go in that area. I don't think that's disputed at all.
Well, my last couple of years when I was at Burleson, before Centennial was built and opened up in 2010, I believe, my last couple of years, like 2008, 2009, I had kids sitting on the floor in a couple of my classes.
Wow.
And again, I'm still dealing with teenagers, but they were mostly advanced students. So they did what teenagers do, pass notes and try to get on the phone. But other than that, it wasn't a real big issue. But I was hearing about it in like 9th grade classes, and that's like, that's like a jungle,
Sure.
and then you hear down at the junior highs, my kids, my younger daughter's still at the junior high at the time. And, it's a mess. And at Hughes, because they were so overloaded and all this other business. And so I just don't think people realize the impact of a crowded school. And it wasn't just in the classrooms. I mean, people were sitting on the floor at the cafeteria because they didn't have enough desks, or tables rather. And you go to the library and, it's not a library. It's basically like a county cell at the jailhouse, because there's just, there's no space to study. Mm-hmm. So all these things are impacting the school experience, and it does. And again, I've said this to BISD people when they've been on the show. Until that has really gotten a handle around, all these other curriculum designs and all these other paradigms of education just fall flat because you're too busy trying to survive.
Manage, sure.
And kids, kids are what they are. I mean, if you were 16, I'm sure Mr. Hudgens was a star student and never did anything in school, right? You never, your teachers loved you, right?
That's right.
Yeah, please. Every teenage boy is a teenage boy at one time. And so, but I'm just saying, they're not necessarily, misbehaving or bad. They're just acting like kids.
Sure.
And I don't know. it really does concern me for our district and y'all's. And I'm sure Godly and Grandview, and I don't know, Alvarado's growing some too.
Sure.
That's just the nature of this area.
Yeah. And I grew up in Rio Vista. It seemed like it stayed small forever. They just passed a bond. They've had a ton of growth down there. It's everywhere.
Really?
So,
I haven't been in Rio Vista in a long time. It's been several years.
Really?
Yeah. I don't have much opportunity or need to go south of the county. But so I just remember that also was a small town as well.
Sure. Yeah. No, they've had a ton of growth. I mean, I don't go often enough. My sister's in administration down there at the school, but it's kind of crazy, even if you just miss, going down there for a few months, and there's houses popping up everywhere. So it's just this area, and Joshua draws people in because of these schools and the community and the culture here, and I don't see it changing anytime soon.
Mr. Odins, did you go to Joshua?
I did not. I did not. But I'm actually from a small town out in West Texas. But I got here as quick as I could.
There you go. Well, just like everybody else, I mean, I grew up in Collin County, so I'm not native this year, but I've lived here since 1991, and I've seen Burleson change 100%. And I think in some ways that's why some people get really concerned about growth and bonds, because it's not the town they grew up in. It's not the town they remembered. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not that. Those times aren't coming back. I remember fondly stores and, the small stores and, Dairy Twin and all that. But I wasn't sad to see H-E-B come in.
Right.
So
I'm sad to go to it. Now it's so packed.
Yeah, right. But it's, I'm just saying that there are some benefits to it.
Sure.
As far as technology, do y'all have an idea what you're looking for?
In CTE?
Yes. Or do you let the administrators kind of guide you in that decision making?
Explain a little more. I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry.
When y'all were putting the bond together, did they tell you what they needed?
Yeah, they gave us a list of, gosh, Charles, how many items do you think were on it? It was a lot.
Oh man, over 20.
And so, there were a lot of items on there, and we kind of each person, individually. I'm apologizing to a microphone.
Yeah.
Don't hit me again.
Yeah. Individually, we sat down and prioritized those, and then they brought it all together. The district did, and ranked all of those, and then we prioritized them again and chatted about them. And so, they handed us a list of things that they need. They know, we don't.
Right.
We're not in the schools every day. So, and then it was definitely 100% the committee who came up with what we felt like as a group were the top priorities.
Well, when we passed the bond to build Centennial, I was part of a group. Some of the teachers and administrators were invited to be part of the larger group, and we broke it down into 3 subgroups, and we talked about what we would need and all this other stuff. And the administration didn't say to us, these are non-negotiables. They said, this is our priority. And we had the opportunity to say, well, look, if we gave you everything on that list, this would be an exceptionally large bond and maybe harder to pass. And so we did, as a group, say our suggestions were, here's how much we think you should buy on technology. You need to prioritize even tighter in a sense. Because sure, everybody wants to have everything, but we knew that if we gave them everything, the numbers were reaching unmanageable. It would be very, very difficult to get elected.
Sure.
Or passed, rather. So is that similar to what y'all did?
That's basically how we did it.
Yeah. And so they just gave us their wishes, and we said, well, we're going to grant you these. These others may be for another time. And then, of course, we passed a bond to help build that new middle school that's near my house, Kerr Middle School. And, but it, it sounds like the money we spent to build Centennial High School is much less than what it takes just to build a couple of schools for y'all, just because of the increase in expense in the last 15 years.
Sure.
Or in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, because I know the bond packages between May 22 and now are different, but it's still, Charles, how much more was it? Was it 86 million last time? Or no?
I think it's right at 10 million more than what it was.
10 million. Okay.
And it's probably not much larger in content, and And it's not like you added things to it, just the increase in expense,
Sure.
right? I mean, you didn't add like 3 or 4 other proposals, did you?
No. I
Okay.
mean, the elementary school,
Yeah.
the elementary school, Nichols Middle School. I mean, we took stuff off that was, were the points of contention last time. We wanted the last bond committee put together a second proposition to expand the multi-purpose facility, which has it's a 40 or 50 yard indoor practice facility. They wanted to expand that. That's not in there this time. There's nothing going directly to athletics. There is a gym in the north end of the high school that needs to be remodeled because I think it's 1976 when it was built. Yeah. And it's never been redone. That floor is the original in there from what I understand. And it definitely needs a lot of work. So,
well, athletic facilities always seems to be a flashpoint for some people. I remember in 2002, we had a bond issued to build a couple elementary schools and the current football stadium. And boy, that we needed the elementary schools very much, and also there's going to do some add-ons at the ad building, which also is a flashpoint. But it seems like the bulk of the conversation and the opposition was the football stadium, and it passed obviously. But I just remember that being the voters that voted against it. That was their main reason. Is that kind of what happened with y'all last time?
I think so, yeah. And Charles can elaborate on it, but I think there was just a lot of division in the community too. There were some things that had happened, and
yeah, that was the main thing. They didn't. A lot of people didn't want to do the Proposition B because it was a 100% want. That's what they viewed it as, not myself. They viewed it as a total want, not a need, and therefore, if they're going to kill the B, they're going to kill the A also.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to run through the second round of commercials. I'm going to ask you about other details of the bond and also y'all's role in it and getting the vote out and whatnot, what y'all are doing for that, because I'm sure that's the name of the game right there in the election. But anyway, also, here's a place you might need to go. Have you ever been to Southern Gym before?
I have not.
It's very, very nice. My wife works there, so I'm very partial to it. But it's over at the Standard off of Hidden Creek, right next to American Revelry, and they had a real big event last Thursday. It was very well attended. They ran out of swag bags. That's how well attended. And Gail will be on this Thursday. She's going to talk about the Christmas plans and talk about the different type of programs they have for Christmas and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to talking with Gail. I see her quite often, and it's always interesting. But it's a very nice place. So it's a good place for Christmas shopping. Just a broad hint there for y'all. Anyway.
Good.
But you got to go by, check it out, because you'll be very impressed. Also, thank you to Old Pro Roofing, John Williams, 817-734-2756. We got a lot of rain the last 3 days, and it was nice knowing that my roof was in good shape. John had inspected it a couple of months ago, said there are no problems, and so I didn't have to worry about leaks and whatnot because they come out and took a look. And they're pretty busy because north of here they got some worse weather than we did, so... they're pretty busy, 817-734-2756. Also, our friends over at Camco, Sammy Campbell and Candy Gow. Sammy can be reached at 817-778-4592, and Candy can be reached at 817-925-2661. They're here in Burleson. They've been here in Burleson under, working for various companies. Now they have their own, and they're going to do really well or good for you. I don't know what the right English is. But anyway, they really do good work. They've done me refinancing twice, and it's really been a pleasant experience. It can be difficult and frustrating. They hold your hand and get you through it, and so you can check them out as well. All right, back to the details. I guess we're getting the vote out. You all have a group, Elevate Joshua. Yes. Is that your political action committee, I guess, for lack of a better word?
It is.
Okay. What are y'all doing to get the vote out besides just Facebook? I mean, it's a lot of work.
Oh, Facebook. Gosh.
Oh, yeah, Facebook. Yeah, everybody's friendly on Facebook. Nobody says anything mean there.
I try to stay away from Facebook, honestly. We are doing everything just to get information to people. I feel like there are a lot of people last year talked about, I don't know how they didn't know that there was a bond called last time because it seemed like it was everywhere, but it's important to our group to get out in the community and talk to people. We've been to all local events that we can manage to get to, and Still have some stuff planned for this week. So,
And where's the early voting place in Joshua? For us in Burleson is at the sub courthouse, but where's it for y'all?
Charles?
It's at the community room at the Joshua High School.
Okay.
It's right next to. It's in the same building as our high school and public library.
Okay. So, and early voting is a big thing in Texas now. I teach a Texas government class, and I can tell you close to 60% of the votes cast in elections are done by election day itself. So it's not election day, it's election month almost.
Right.
Trying to get through,
And I
so
believe they're open till 7
they are.
the rest of the
7 to
week.
7 this week.
Yeah,
They're 7 to 7, and I think the last day for early voting is the 3rd.
correct.
And then, of course, then you have November 7th, I believe, is the date. And that's a big day, for a lot of things. But
Sure.
what kind of response are y'all getting?
I mean, I feel like the response is pretty positive. When you talk to people in person, there aren't a whole lot that are going to be ugly to you in person. They may tell you no, which is, that's everyone's right, to have an opinion about it. And
What can I ask you about it when they say no? What is the reason for their no?
so a lot of people that I've come into contact with say, well, I don't have a kid in the school anymore. Yeah, that's a frustrating one.
But it's very frustrating.
It
yes.
is. It is. And, I try to be respectful of their mindset there, but at the same time, it's kind of like, geez, we need to invest into our community to keep it great. And, my thing on that too is I went to public school and people were paying property tax, school taxes then, and helped invest in my education. And I'm sure probably all of us,
Well, I'd like to comment on that because this is my political point for the day. Is that drives me crazy but people who say that, well, I don't have any stake in the schools, you couldn't be more wrong. The value of your home, in large part, is connected to the value or quality of the schools, and the number of businesses and the type of businesses are tied to that, and the type of employees are going to have. And the type of community you want to have is going to be tied very, very strongly to the school. So I don't have kids in the school system, but I don't have a problem at one iota paying taxes. And it's not just because I'm a former public school teacher, but also because I know that if I want these kind of businesses and I want these kind of quality citizens, I want a strong school system. I never have gotten in that mindset where if it doesn't affect me directly, and obviously, then I have no stake in it. That's just so wrong. Anyway, that's my point for today. Anyway, the other people, when they say no, is it about the money?
I haven't really.
You think so?
Charles,
I've had a few tell me that they just don't want their taxes going up. Which I understand that none of us want to pay extra taxes, but I would pay double to make sure this passed. But I understand some people don't want their taxes to go up.
But a lot of people, their taxes won't go up.
Right.
Because of the age limits and whatnot. Their taxes won't be affected one bit.
Sure.
And
since the rate was compressed, and if you have that 65 or over exemption filed, you're going to lower, and then if the bond passes, you're not going to go back up with it. So, it's just, there's a lot of, I see a lot of twisting to things. We probably, and we get accused of that. We accuse, I try not to accuse anybody of anything, but everybody spins it the way, I feel like it gets spun in a way to make it look like there's corruption or there's, the district's lying to you or you can't trust. But man, I have to brag on our superintendent and our administration because they've been rock stars about answering every question.
Right.
I have not missed a town hall, and Mr. Hickerson, without script, without anything in front of him, will answer any question that anybody wants, unprepared. And if he doesn't have the answer if he doesn't have the answer right there, doesn't have the knowledge on whatever he's asked, he is willing to go back, find the answer for him. He gives them his email address. Like anybody there, you can't say that the man is not willing to help you with the information. He is 100% out there and transparent in our community.
Well, I'm going to try to put this question as politically tactful as possible, which means it won't be tactful at all. But do you think some of the opposition to the bond is really just because they have opposition to Joshua ISD administration or whatnot. It's personal for them as opposed to any rational or logical reason to oppose the bond. Is that possible? Because I understand, to be frank.
All I'm going to say is yes.
Yes. Well, I understand that Joshua's had some conflict
Sure.
with the school board and potential candidates and whatever else.
Yeah.
And we've gone through that in BISD. So, but I wonder if that's what's driving some of this more than, tax issues or how the money's going to be spent. They're seeing this as opposition to Joshua ISD itself.
Yeah, and to me, that's where you do see it on social media. I am very blessed that I've been blocked by a lot of the people on Joshua residents talking. I do take it as a blessing, but I do get screenshots constantly of it. So, I think that those people that have a personal vendetta against the district separate themselves, and it's very easy to see that.
Why would what is the basis for this vendetta, though? I mean, y'all are not teaching wild, crazy things in school, and and other stuff. You're like BISD. It's just when BISD gets accused of whether they're teaching critical race theory, that's rubbish because we don't have time for that. Even if we even had an inclination to teach weird things, we're barely making it through the semester in time. So we don't have time to divert to these crazy ideas. What do you think? What's motivating that?
I think a few of those that are vocally opposed, very vocal about their opposition, they did have personal experiences that they weren't satisfied with the result of it. And I can respect that. They had issues with their kiddos or whatever in the, whatever their personal situation was. I know a few of them have been pretty vocal in sharing what those were on social media, but it's not my business to share. So I do understand those. The ones that I have a hard time with are the ones that haven't had a dog in the fight to be so mad at the district, or if they were mad at past administration, why we can't move forward now. Right. There's just to me, and what's really sad about it is that there's nothing, it seems like there's nothing the district can say or do, that Mr. Hickerson can say or do to mend that. And they're just stuck in this negativity and this cloud they want to put around, JISD. And it's sad because that's not the type of school it is. It's not the type of people they are.
Well, the thing about it, the facts on the ground aren't going to change. The schools are going to get overcrowded. What's their response to that? I mean, when you say, well, what's your, instead of passing a bond or whatever else, what is your response going to be? Overcrowded classes. A lot of it's going to come out of the operating budget, and it's going to put a tremendous strain on that operating budget. But when you tell them, this is what it's for, and they say, no, we don't need that, they just don't believe you, or is it that they don't care?
I think
some of them have actually said lately that they think the overcrowding is false, and
just go to school and find out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but there's also been some that just they're diehard on. Hey, I was raised in a portable. Your kids can too. But what a lot of people don't understand is those portables aren't cheap,
and they're not safe.
80% of any operating budget is salaries. So after that, you only have so much left you could use. And if you use them all that on portables, there's nothing left.
Well, the portables aren't safe in bad weather because we had to deal with that. Before we moved to the BHS facility we have now, when we were back at what used to be the high school back in the 90s, we had a whole row of portables. And every time the rain got hard, they had to bring those kids in for inclement weather. And unfortunately, we also live in an era in which personal security is an issue. Yep. And those portables are not as well guarded or protected as the building itself. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you're forced to put people in portables, you're putting them at a greater risk than they realize.
Sure.
For a lot of things. And so
I was talking to a teacher this weekend from North Joshua, and she said, I think about if I have a kid that gets sick and throws up, gets sick on their clothes or whatever, and they have to go into the school. She was like, what am I going to do? Load my entire class up and all of us walk this child into the school, then she said, I don't see any other way around you can't send them across the parking lot by themselves, an elementary school student.
Right.
So
we had that same issue, yes.
So I don't know, the teachers bring a really interesting perspective, and I have the utmost respect for the ones that are willing to, all of them, but the ones that are willing to kind of take the negative that they get, they kind of get attacked on social media. And so I am thankful that they will speak up and share, because those are perspectives that we don't get. We're not in the classroom every single day with the little ones. And
but I'm just thinking back to the days, and then when we were at BHS, we had portables as well before Centennial opened up. And, all these issues you talked about, security issues and other issues like that, discipline issues sometimes, not every time, but it's still, if you had one, the response time was much less. And so, all these things need to be taken care of. I mean, the security of the kids are at stake. Sure. Not just their education, but their physical and emotional security is at stake. And it's not going to be solved by a group that's going to say, well, I was in a one-room schoolhouse and look how good I got learned. That just doesn't make any sense. But I understand the tax issues.
Sure.
Everybody understands that. But, sometimes that's the cost of living in a growing society. You got to, we can't say, well, I don't want to pay city taxes because, I want to have a safe fire department and safe police department and things of that nature. And so, we'll pay taxes. Sure. And that's just the nature of the game. And I just don't understand it really when they put the security and educational future of kids, behind their own vendettas, or, they put their own personal grievances or ideas ahead of what's good for the community and for the kids. It's hard to get excited about that. So, as far as you talking about Joshua residents talking, we have our own version of that here, and I am not invited. So I am blocked, and I'm fine with that too. I don't have that kind of time for getting all worked up about what somebody said. So
I left it for a long time, and then I went back so that I could just kind of see what's, my big thing is, if I don't necessarily want to engage the opposition at all, as much as if I see them post something that is not true, let's share what is true, and then it's up to people to decide what they believe or don't believe. I don't know. I hate it. I hate that people get, what are we called, Charles? The Kool-Aid crew?
Yeah, the Kool-Aid drinkers.
Yeah. Kool-Aid drinkers, brother. The Kool-Aid committee. That's what we are, the Kool-Aid
I like
committee.
Strawberry Kool-Aid. What's your flavor Kool-Aid?
I'm a big strawberry fan myself.
I like strawberry.
But, just silly stuff like that, because you're talking about real people, and, just because we support it doesn't make us Kool-Aid drinkers or bad people or unable to make our own opinions about things. So,
well, most of the people I dealt with in these bond things here in Burleson they accepted the understanding of it. Now, the only time I've seen it, we had a tax referendum fail in, I say 2012. It failed by 8 votes. Oh. All right. And it was one of the larger participated elections in Burleson school system history, I believe. I mean, it had like 4,000 votes cast. And it was basically because at that time, it wasn't a bond issue as such, but it was if you want to raise the tax past a certain point, you have to have it approved. And I think it literally is like 2001 over this one and 2009 on against and that. So that's how narrow these things can go. And as far as the bond elections, all the bond elections in Burleson have passed, but it doesn't mean it was an easy pull.
Sure.
Some was easier than others, but the hardest one I remember was the one about 20 years ago when we had to include the football stadium. And so there's all that. That was a hard pull.
Well, I don't know how long ago the football stadium went in, but we're still complaining about that now. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. It is what it is.
Now, Mr. Hudgens, you said you were on the school board at one time.
Yes.
When did you leave it?
When did I leave it?
Yeah.
During the last bond election. Yeah, I did not get reelected for that one. Yeah.
Oh, and you think your position on the bond cost you that seat?
No. Right. I ran against me. He was very popular. Knows a lot of people. And when you're an incumbent, on a bond election, you're kind of behind the 8 ball anyway.
Yeah. Because you just obviously you're spending the school district's money lighting up your cigar with your $50 bills in school, and and the
lining your pocket.
right, and you got the superintendent in his gold-plated toilet in his office and all this, yada.
Oh yeah, I was accused of so much because I was the incumbent during that bond election. Yeah, I was lining my pockets. I'm driving a 2015 Explorer, but I'm lining my pockets.
Yeah. What do you do for a living, by the way?
I work for a hose company that we sell hydraulic hoses, water hoses, anything for the oil field, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, that's good. It's over in Cleveland, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Well, I just think that a lot of people, if they really would spend time in the schools that they pay for, they'd come away with a different perspective. They really would. If they spend, these people think that the overcrowding is a myth. Go over to North Joshua and go sit in on the first grade class.
Sure.
See what's happening there. Or if they think that the superintendent is blowing money on junk, then go over to the ad building. Yeah, I know in our situation, we probably could use a new ad building, and the chances of that happening are zero, because we're not going to ask for it because we have too many other needs. But they're basically out in our ad building. They are taking garage space and put paneling and walls up because they don't have any other place to put the people. And they said, well, we have too many people working for the administration. They also need to see what the state of Texas and the federal government require of our school districts.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm sure, Mr. Hudgens, you probably saw it over and over again, just the mandates, particularly from the state of Texas. How you deal with subpopulations and you name it. When I started teaching schools, we had very little of that. Now, and we had a small administrative staff. Now, just to satisfy state requirements and federal requirements, additional personnel is required. And a lot of people don't understand that. I think very few people really realize just what a burden the mandates from the state of Texas are to the school system.
Sure.
And they talk about budgets. At one time, I don't know what the percentage is now, about nearly 50% was off the table when it came to cuts because it was required. And you add the expense increases and everything else. I mean, this budget has to pass, and this bond has to pass. That's what I meant to say. It has to pass. If it just for maintaining what you have, from what I did a little research on this and asked a couple of people, and we got a couple of people in my church and Sunday school class that live in Joshua SD, and they're going to vote for it. And they took a look at it and they said there really isn't much option. Because this doesn't go away. Well,
like I said, I mean, if it gets voted down this time, all of these things are going to come back up again, and it's just going to increase in cost.
And would you
even if we take some out, it's going to cost the same amount because of inflation.
If it doesn't pass, which I'm not putting it out there in the universe, so to speak, but if it doesn't, you're going to come back again, try it again.
I mean, I don't think they have an option. I think you're going to have, especially. Yeah, I mean,
and y'all two gonna lead it?
I'm saying they don't have an option, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll always be in. Charles. I'll speak for both of us. We're both super involved in the community and the school district, and so I may not. I don't know. I'm not going to say. I'll always help for sure.
We'll be there.
We'll be there. Yeah.
Well, we need people like y'all in these communities. We have people here in Burleson just like that, who just they serve this community, and sometimes I wonder why, because they get a lot of static about it, and they get criticized, and you get yahoos on the social media that say mean things about them. I'm like, what's the matter with you people? I mean, you don't have to agree with them, but you could say you can be nice about it.
Or introduce yourself and actually have personal knowledge of who we are instead of just, making assumptions about, I think anybody that sports the bond or is on the pack or these big bad wolves. And I'm like, gosh, I'm a mom, I mean, I am probably to my kids a lot a big bad wolf, but
do you have kids in the system?
I do. I have 2 sophomore boys, and then I'm done.
And then you're done.
Done.
Well, you're not done with the system, but you're done with but I can't tell you how many parents I've met at graduation with just a look of relief on their face. Oh my God, they're out of school finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Charles has a little ways behind me. He's got younger kiddos.
Dude, I've got a freshman and a first grader, so I'm here. I'm in it for a while.
Oh yeah, a freshman and a first grader. Okay,
Yes, sir.
you're going to be here until another 20 years probably.
Yeah. We have grandparents on the pack, and we have a mom that has only been here for a few months, and some that have been here a while, and one that doesn't have any kids in the school yet. Hers are young, and it's neat to see a group of people all with they see the needs and they take a common sense approach to it. I'd say that about our entire group. We have spouse of a teacher, so we it's just each person brings something different to elevate Joshua, and all have the same goal. Actually, we have a couple of spouses of teachers in the district.
And they can give you firsthand information.
Sure.
Well, we had the teachers on the group 2006, and that did help because we'd say, they come, the administration said we want X, Y, and Z, and so, well, really, you don't need Y as much as you need this. This is really what, if you want, and so it really did create a system where the teachers had input and the parents had input and all this, what they wanted out of it. Now, it was pretty well handled, I thought. It was not without controversy because a lot of people did not want to build a second high school.
Oh, yeah.
And they wanted to build a ninth grade academy, which, to be clear, I was on that. That was my position as well. But when that got voted down, so to speak, by the committee, I just got on board. I didn't say, well, I didn't get my way, so I'm out. No, I just got on board anyway because I knew we needed something. Mm-hmm. It wasn't exactly what I would have chosen, but I knew we needed something. And the second high school is what resulted from it. And then it's all good now, and that's a long time ago. But, I just think, I don't know how my elementary friends do it. I really don't, because I have friends that still teach elementary or just did, and it's tough. It's tough in so many ways now.
Yeah.
But we're getting close on time. So you say that the voting is at the community center?
Yes, community. They call it the community room. It's
okay.
It's in the same building as our library there at the high school.
What's the turnout been? Have you asked?
Oh, I haven't looked today.
I haven't looked today either. No.
Around 400, I think, on Thursday evening. I need to look at. I hadn't seen Fridays.
Mm-hmm. Well, I voted the first day of early voting for those propositions, and I talked to the ladies that run it. We have a pretty standard crew, if you will, pretty consistent crew that run our elections over here, and they said the first day's turnout was pretty decent. And I kind of kept up a little bit. I've asked around a little, and they said, well, it tailed off a little last week. So y'all need to get out there, Joshua ISD. I mean, this is a big one. Like we said, we're close on time. Y'all two take it the last few minutes to tell us everything you want us to know about the bond and the need for it.
So, Charles, you start.
Okay. Well, main thing is it's not once. Like I said, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and people think that we're just wanting shiny new things. It's not. None of it's a want. It's all needs. And 90% of this bond is based around space. Classroom space, whether it's the CTE, whether it's expanding Nichols or building an additional elementary school. It's all we need the room. The kids are coming, and we can't stop that. And we just need somewhere to put them. Main thing I can tell anybody, if you have any kind of question, just ask. Don't assume, and don't just take something that somebody tells you. Find the facts and make your own decision.
Mm-hmm. And you?
I agree. Mm-hmm. And something I want to drive home. I'm 42. Charles, how old are you?
I'm 41.
41. So we're the same age, and people our age don't go vote.
That's true.
And that's so frustrating. But so my big, huge ask is that 18 to 49 group of people that don't show up and vote. I mean, I think it was like 120 in that age group that showed up for the last bond.
In person, yeah.
Yeah, in person. That's crazy to me because that's the age of our parents in these elementary schools. Their kids are the ones that are going to be the most impacted, and they need to go vote and not just depend on everybody else because it wasn't enough last time. And, these are, like Charles said, and I'll elaborate on that, these are needs. 95% of this bond is for space. It is it is abundantly clear no matter what direction you drive in Joshua, from Burleson, from Godley, from Cleburne, that there's developments everywhere. And you have to have space for these kiddos that are moving into our district. And to keep it as great of a district as it has been, we need to support the school district. We need to support these kids and teachers.
Well, you're right about the voting. I teach at Hill and at Dallas Baptist and government classes and whatnot, and I always rant and rave about how these kids don't vote, and they just said, "What is he still talking?" Well, anyway, is this on the test? And leave me alone.
Yeah.
But that I 100% concur, and maybe in a weird kind of way, the fact that last year's bond didn't pass may wake up a few more voters. Say, wait, I didn't vote last time because I assumed it would pass, and it didn't. So maybe I won't assume that again, and they'll make the very brief effort. Voting is not that big a deal. It's not that hard,
No, I've timed myself the other day. It took 5 minutes and 18 seconds to walk in the community room and vote and go back out. Now, I'll vote on the other propositions in my precinct on election day. But yeah, to vote for the bond, it was 5 minutes. Just walk in there and do it.
Ours was, I don't know if my wife and I voted, and I don't think it took that long.
Right.
We kind of figured out what we wanted to do on the propositions, and we walked in, filled out the blanks, turned it in, walked out the door. So Joshua and Burleson, and this is important to me too, because so many of the Burleson residents go to Joshua schools. This isn't just affecting Joshua; it's affecting Burleson as well, and that's what I've been emphasizing: is that this affects our town as well, very much so. And the quality of our communities also is aided by the quality of our neighbors' communities.
Sure.
And so this is important, guys. So get out there, and if you're able to vote for this bond, do so. Don't listen to the rubbish on social media about this, that, and the other, because these two people really know what they're talking about. And I hope you share this with your friends. Share this episode, the YouTube, whatnot. It'll be on Apple and Spotify very soon, and share that with them. Let them know what the stakes are. They're too important for somebody else to do the heavy lifting. So get out there and vote, dadgummit. That's your old professor talking to you. Thanks for coming.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. I hope this works out for you. And tomorrow we have Lisa Schwartz from Crazy Eights. And like I said, Thursday we have Gayla from Southern Gym. Next week I'm going to have Larry Scott and Dan McClendon on. So we're going to have a very, very full week. So I'll see y'all tomorrow.